Welcome to this afternoon's webinar on the modern CRM alternative. This is Susan Clark, and I'm glad you guys could make it this afternoon. But as you know, I've been using ACT actually since 1987 when we started. We actually started with the version 2 for DOS. And in 1997, 10 years later, Scott Holmes and I became certified in ACT and Ginger, who a lot of you have talked to as well, was certified a few years later. In most summers, like right now, I would usually be spending writing the ACT Quick Study Guide. Over the last however many years, I've written 12 ACT Quick Study Guides that sell on Amazon, they sell on ACT's site, and they sell on our site. And I have really enjoyed it, and it's been a lot of fun, and it helps me to learn a lot about ACT. I also did a Swift page quick study guide to help people understand how to use the e-marketing part of ACT and Swift page. You've probably also received tips from me over time about how to better use ACT. So I have really been what most people would call an ACT fanatic. I have loved the product, and it has been really great. But a couple of years ago, I felt like everything was changing. I'm not sure if it started with the iPad or the smartphone or the rise in popularity of Macs, but I've been really stunned actually at the growth of the tablet market. I thought it was a really cool thing, but I didn't know that I would see it growing nearly as fast as I have seen it grow in the corporate environment. And I've actually been pretty shocked but kind of impressed, because it really has changed a lot of stuff about how we want to do business. And while everything is changing, one of the things that once we started to, I think a lot of people started to embrace phones and iPads, the thing that made them so sexy, if you will, is that there's the instant on. You would just push a button and immediately everything was on, which wasn't the true with my laptop or my desktop. It seems like I could turn it on and go get a cup of coffee go brew a cup of coffee for how long it took everything to come on. And in addition to that, when you start to look for applications or software that work on tablets and the smartphone, not necessarily Macs, but just on the smaller devices, everything is so darn cheap. It's either free or I think probably the most expensive app I have on my iPad is maybe $15. It's fairly inexpensive. So now we're kind of used to, if you're used to using an iPad or a tablet of any kind, you're kind of used to that instant on and no money. It doesn't cost anything to hardly get apps. And so that's changing how we look at stuff, I think, in our business environment. So I really kind of wanted to talk to you about where I see the CRM market going, because I've been doing it for a lot of years, and I'm hoping to share some of that with you. The biggest thing is that we've seen the sale of Windows-based, Microsoft-based devices go from 90% of the market to under 20% of all new devices that are purchased. So not a lot of people are buying the PCs and Windows. They're mostly focusing on tablets and other kinds of devices. Even the Windows, you can see the growth of the Windows there is mostly going to be in tablets, not so much in the laptops, which is actually kind of interesting. So currently, we have about 60% of all the devices are connected to the internet. They estimate that by 2017, 87% of all devices will be connected to the internet. And so that's kind of become a really big thing. And because of that, most of these devices are not tied to Microsoft. You can't get Microsoft on the iPad and the iPhone and the Android. So a lot of people are kind of wondering, well, what is the future of Microsoft? I can actually see a future, and this will probably shock people, but I can see a future without Microsoft. Probably not Microsoft Windows, the operating system, because there are certainly a ton of apps, CAD, apps and certain kinds of apps that are really important to your businesses that'll always run on the Microsoft operating system, or at least people have spent a ton of money in developing for that system. But the Microsoft Office, remember, I think there is a time when that may or may not go away, and I want to be cognizant of that. And somebody goes, well, you know, it could never go away. But I lived through the WordPerfect and Lotus years, and I don't know if any of you remember that. But that was a time when people thought WordPerfect and Lotus could never, ever go away, could never happen. And yet I know no one that uses these anymore. I know they're out there, but no one uses them. I think as we're moving forward, people want to have access to their software and their files. When you're out of the office, or when you're traveling or whatever, you want to be able to have even access to the file, not just the software, but the files on all your devices. So if somebody calls and has a question, you don't have to wait to get back to the office. You could look it up very quickly and find exactly what you need. So the only way you can do that is the cloud. The cloud gives you that access because you could go to the web or the cloud. It's the same thing. If you had more stuff, more of your business apps on the web, it would make a huge difference to your productivity and being able to work. Now, I'm not leaving ACT. If you want an on-premise option, if you want to have your ACT data or your CRM data on a server in your office or on your laptop, and that's how you want your device and that's how you want to work, then that's fine. ACT is an excellent on-premise option with the software. And ACT does have a web option, and the mobile version is actually pretty quick. If you use, it's only with the later versions of ACT, and you have to have a web server in order to do it, but you can get to the mobile version. But the complete version, if you try and access web, totally work with ACT on the web, it's really not nearly as peppy as it should be. The technology with ACT has just not changed, and that really has started to concern me about the future of ACT and my business and your businesses as well. You know, there was a time when we worried about, well, I don't want to have the stuff on the web because I might lose my internet connection. But you know what? A few months ago, our internet went down, and it was like, no problem. I just got out my phone, and I was still in business. I could access all of my CRM. I could access my appointments. I could access a ton of my documents because we've switched over a lot of stuff over to the web. And so it became very easy. It's just not that big a deal anymore. Even my grocery has a web connection, or coffee shops, or every place you go, there are easy access internet, wireless, free web connections. You know, now I have, over the past year, I would say, I have a ton of clients where the hard drive is failing. I won't say what brand, but some of my favorite brands, the hard drive for some obscure reason is failing. I've had clients where someone has stolen their laptop at airports, or they've lost it if somebody broke into their car or whatever. But because, you know, when things like this happen, or when you have to have an upgrade of one software, the problem is that the upgrade makes you have to have a new laptop, which then probably makes you have to have Windows 8, which then makes you have to probably buy the new Office suite of products, which then, of course, if you've already looked at that and you want ACT to work with Outlook and Word and Excel, you have to buy the latest version of ACT. And so it's a cycle that I see that that I frankly wanted to talk to you about, because as all of this stuff gets more and more complicated, you have install issues, you have error messages, there are sync issues, although our sync is actually working pretty well for our old database, but that's probably because we're not using ACT anymore. We're using a new version because no solution that ACT had was available for tablets or phones or Macs, and I have some clients that want to move to Macs. So I looked for a while for a system that I thought would work for people who were used to using ACT and wanted to have something that was similar and would fit your budget. And this is a solution that we actually came upon a couple of years ago. We invested a lot of time in research and looking for different solutions, and this is the one we came upon. And when we started, it was kind of like, well, who is this, and why is it really a good solution? Well, it's actually, Zoho is a direct competitor to Salesforce.com, and I know you've all heard of Salesforce.com. But the problem with Salesforce.com is it's very complicated, and Zoho comes in at about a third of the price. Since we've been repping it, we've had actually quite a few Salesforce.com conversions, in addition to ACT, but some Salesforce.com conversions over to Zoho as well, because it's so darn cheap in comparison, or maybe I should say Salesforce is just really expensive. But we've converted from other systems as well. But I think there's other reasons why I like them. You can't just base something just on money. And I don't take this decision lightly to take all of our business, all of our ACT CRM database, all of the data that we've put in for well over 20 years, and move it to a new product. That you can't make that decision lightly. And so we did a lot of research on Zoho. So high level, they've been in business for 17 years. They are not newcomers into the business. They have 2,500 people plus and 3 business units. They're actually based in California, Pleasanton, California, outside of San Francisco. But they have a major sales office in Austin, in Japan, and China. Most of their programmers are in Chennai, where they're doing a lot of their work, and that's probably where the bulk of the 2,500 people are. I actually went to Chennai earlier this year to visit with them, and they're just their interest in making things better and looking at what partners think and taking suggestions and asking us to work with stuff is so amazing. I'm just so impressed. It was much more like ACT was in the very, very early days. But this product has only been out, they only are 10 years younger than ACT, and they have more users right now than ACT. Because some people kind of go, well, it's a little tiny company. It's not. It's a very large company, and they have a lot of users at this point. They are still privately held, which I think allows them to be committed to their users. They don't have to work with stockholders. But one of the more interesting things is that they're also profitable, which is not true of most big CRMs on the market. They have the largest, they're spending all of their money on R&D, meaning new products and new solutions and new ways to do things. They're spending 80% of their budget on R&D and about 20% into sales, which is probably why some of you may not have heard of them. But that's exactly the opposite statistics of a lot of other companies in the market right now, which are spending 80% on sales and only 20% into R&D. And they're not even profitable. I liked the company and picked it because I felt like they had a commitment to people. That was real important to me, because I don't want to go finding CRM solutions all the time. I want to stick with just the ones that I think are really good. They promote from within. I've worked with several some of the ones that I started at the beginning are still there. They have their own university where they said they didn't like what was coming out of their local university, so they started building their own university, and they this sounds really dumb, but they pay kids to go to school there, and they give them a stipend, and it's so as a result, a lot of these kids that go here stay with Zoho at the end. They're very loyal to Zoho, which I think is very good. They have a ton of servers, but all of their servers are based in the United States. 70% of them are in California and 30% are in New York, but they're adding 10 more a week. So it's a growing company, but they've got a lot of stuff in mind. So they want to grow, and but I want to talk to you about how does ACT compare to Zoho, because I think that's probably the other thing. Well, what would you have to do, and what would it mean? So first of all, if you just think it's just words and location, think an elevator button, and you have to get to the base floor where you get off. Do you press G for ground or 1 for the first floor or L for lobby? It's just words and location. So if you say this would look like what the current act bar is at the left of the window. This is what the Zoho window looks like, where their bar is across the top. So, they've got a contacts button. They have groups, whereas you can just use that little drop-down arrow and you can pick out any group you want, and it'll immediately filter your list. They use the word account instead of company. They have a calendar. They have a task list. They call opportunities potentials. I think that's kind of a dorky word, but they use it. It's very easy, but it's very easy to change that word. If you don't like that word or you want to call it deals, you can call it whatever you want. They have reports, and the reports work, and they're easy to customize, and you can get almost any kind of report you want out of the database. They have a search function that's very fast and very easy to use. You can rename, rearrange, or hide menu items. If you don't want people going to the quotes area, or you don't want them going to the campaigns, the marketing campaigns, you can hide those items from whoever you want to. It's very, very flexible. Visually, this is what you recognize, of course, the ACT screen on the left, where you do have the 3 columns of data, and your tabs are on the bottom. The Zoho screen on the right is 2-column based. You cannot change that. I cannot make it look pretty like the ACT, but I found that it actually works pretty well. If I go over here to the right, these are fields at the top of the screen that are repeated. I can take any field that I want down at the bottom and display it up here at the top. So if I want to know what version of the software they have that belongs to us, I can take one of the fields, and I have up to 5 fields. This is called the business card area. And then you just scroll to see the rest of the fields here. I didn't show them all right here, but as you get to the bottom of the list, very similar to the way you get to the bottom of the fields over here at the left, you can see the notes, and you can scroll and see the opportunities, and you can scroll and see the emails. And by the way, SwiftPage kind of emails do not mix in with your normal emails and or your normal history. They are kept in a separate area, which is actually very nice, because while I love SwiftPage, it was really hard to filter through all the email stuff if you are a user. You have saved list views, was probably one of my favorite. You know how you can, in ACT, customize the columns and pick which columns you want. Zoho will allow you to save as many list views as you want, and you save it, and you can associate a lookup. So I can say, only show me people in the energy industry and show these columns when you show that. And it's just a real quick little drop down. It's very quick. And if you like, you can even restrict who sees those views. So I see that Jim asked, is it easy to build customized reports and dashboards? I cannot even tell you. It is so easy, Jim, to build, really customized. It's very wizard driven. It says, what columns do you want? How do you want to sort them? And then it says, do you want to total anything? And then it says, what is your criteria? How do you want to select it? Do you want everything, or do you want only things that are, say, ID status is customers? It's pretty darn cool. So after you've got your list views, here's the reports and dashboards. There are a ton of reports that come automatic, but it's very easy to build. And once you've built a report, if you want to display it graphically in a dashboard, you can do that very easily, and everybody can have their own dashboard if you like. Here is a really cool thing built in. It's also easy to schedule the reports. So if I want to do a sales performance report, and I pick the report and I say I want it weekly, I can automatically send it out, and I can send it to somebody who's not even a Zoho user. So if the CEO of the company wants it, you can just automatically schedule it to go out every Monday and go to their report. You can connect, regardless of what email package you're using, you can connect to Microsoft. and it doesn't make any difference what version you're using. If it's 2003 to 2013, it could be 32-bit or 64-bit. Makes no difference. Zoho will connect to it. It'll also connect to Word. I like it. Works very well. You don't have to worry about it, but I'm also a huge fan. If you are a Google Apps Gmail user, it works flawlessly with Gmail. I actually liked it so well that after we switched to Zoho, we switched all of our stuff to a Google Apps account. So the Cornerstone solution still comes out of as my domain name, but I'm using Gmail, and I can connect it to Outlook, but oh my gosh, it runs so much faster, and I like it so much more. And it will do a two-way sync, so if somebody adds something in one environment, it automatically syncs to the other environment. In Zoho, in Act, we had Smart Task, which that was probably the beginning of the downfall for me. Smart Task, I could never get them to work reliably. And it was when someone asked me for it, I always felt bad about it because it was not something that worked well. In Zoho, they work beautifully. I can create automatic follow-up activities based on a field change. So like if the opportunity is closed, I can schedule a follow-up for that person in 7 days. Or anytime you create a new lead, I can schedule a follow-up or send an automatic email to that person. When I update the expiration date on a company record, like their contract expires on this date, I can make it automatically update that same field on all the contact records so that when you're looking at a contact, you recognize immediately that whether their business is active or not active. There are a ton of things that you can do. Some of that's based on what edition you have, but it's pretty easy to do, and they're very, very reliable. You can work anywhere, whether you're on a tablet or a smartphone or a Mac. All of the options are included. Now, if you have the free version and the basic version, you can't edit on the little app. But you can see everything. But, that's not really a big deal. I just I view my Zoho database using the web version. There's nothing to say that you can't do it. And it kind of looks like this little picture right here in the middle of the screen. It looks like that on your phone without this thing at the left. So it looks like this. And from the phone, I can call somebody, I can email somebody, I can map their address if I'm going to visit them. Just very, very quick. This was the other thing that did it for me. I don't have to worry with install issues anymore because everything is web-based. Anytime there's a bug, it's fixed, and all the enhancements that they offer are added to everybody at once. You come in the next day, it's working, and it's already added to everybody's PC. You don't have to, and their phone, and wherever else they're using it. No syncing, of course, because it's live. You're always syncing, although if you have the little app, it does actually sync on a regular basis. And it's darn fast. It is just very fast on looking up stuff. And it doesn't log you out during the day. That was a problem with some web apps, is that if you haven't done anything or touched it for 30 minutes, it automatically logs you out. That is not a problem. It's not going to do that, which was a big thing for me. So if you are interested in converting to Zoho, you can, I wanted to tell you, take everything with you. At this point, we've not had problems in converting contacts, companies, notes, histories, activities, even attachments. If it's in there, we can convert it. It's not an impossibility because, we had over 20 years of history, and we were not interested in leaving that behind. So I understand that, and that's an important thing, I'm sure, for all of you, because your database is your business. So we can, if you're interested in staying with ACT, not a problem. Like I said, we're not leaving ACT. I still like it. I think if you want the on-premise, you're in good shape. But for Zoho, if you are interested even remotely in going to the web, I think it would be very interesting thing for you to look at. I'm off to San Francisco for the annual Zoholics conference the first week of July, where I'm speaking again. You know, when I commit to something, I kind of commit. But after I return, I would love to, I'd be glad to strategize with any of you about moving parts of your business over. If you're interested, you can go to zcrmhelp.com and see more about from Zoho from our database. You can also, if you really want to schedule something, get something on my calendar. We're using this new app that I also love, by the way, but don't sell, but I do like it. You go to susanclark.appointlit.com and you can schedule time on my schedule to talk with me about anything that you like. Hope you have a really, really great summer, and I will see you hopefully after I come back from San Francisco.